Welcome to the Unfiltered Path podcast, where we explore life's journey without the constraints of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, struggles, and transformative moments that define us. Our mission is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and remind you that every path, no matter how windy or rocky, can lead to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate the uncharted territories of truth and to be moved, be inspired, and discover that you're not alone on this unfiltered journey of life. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Duval. I am the owner of Valued Productions. We provide video marketing strategies to businesses to help them turn strangers into clients. And I am one of your co-hosts today, joined with my other co-host.
Hey everyone, Trinity Baker, mindset coach and motivational speaker, helping you discover the power of your mindset to live a happy and fulfilling life, whether that be personally or professionally. Joined here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I'm an aerialist. That's a fancy term for performing suspended in the air. Essentially, I'm the bird of the circus. I'm also an educator, so I teach other people to do it as well. And we are here with our guest today.
I'm Jason Gootman. I'm a wellness coach, and to keep it very simple, I help people learn to take great care of themselves.
Love that. What impactful little statement you have there. But it's so important because it's literally our bodies is what allows us to do what we do every single day. Like we put them last. A lot of people put that last, right? When we couldn't even do what we do every day if our bodies aren't healthy.
For real. I have to I'm on the other side of that where I have to make decisions that the average person wouldn't have to make to maintain an athletic body at my age and the extra wear and tear and the extra work. So I was kind of think of Tom Brady because one time he said what he ate and everyone just was like besides themselves. He was like chicken with barely any salt, broccoli, and he should name greens he likes, and that was just what he said. And I remember it being such a conversation, and I'm like, well, those are the decisions that separate us, especially when we get to that level, we have to maintain differently. So it's interesting, and I love following your page because every once in a while I can gather something that I didn't necessarily know or that I kind of forget. You just get so much information and then you just kind of live outside of it for a bit. And then you're like, oh yeah, wait. Like, someone reposted about a particular burrito not being healthy, and I had forgot that that burrito show was not the greatest. And I don't know, it was just a nice reminder, and it's so great to have accounts and people like that.
Jason is definitely one of those people, and he goes into the science behind the things that we do, and I love that because I love brains, right? So I love reading Jason's stuff, and he's always educating me, always educating me. I appreciate it, Jason.
My pleasure. And I think the point we've brought up already is a very cool one that in pop culture, there's all kinds of crazy reasons for why one should eat better, exercise more, and such. And many of them are kind of shallow at the end of the day. And the idea that it's to be able to do the things you love to do is anti-shallow, right? It's like, what else is there to do while we're here and alive, but do what we love to do? And at some point, most people come to realize that taking care of themselves is essential to being able to do that.
Yeah, and sometimes they do that way too late. Sometimes they feel like it might be too late. So having someone like you that shows them it's not too late. And even if you think it is too late or it's past certain things you might want to do, how else can you achieve that level that you're looking for? And you're right, because here's what I think is that when you have that shallow motivation to why you're doing it, you don't do it. That's where we see self-sabotaging. That's where we see New Year's resolutions that go past January 2nd, right?
Good point.
Yeah. So you have to have a strong why, and it's got to be more than I want to look good in the bathing suit. It's got to be more than I wish I didn't have a muffin top over my pants. It's got to be something more than that. It's got to be I want to be a generational shifter and teach my kids how proper eating serves their body. I want to teach my kids that We don't torture our bodies at the gym. We honor our bodies at the gym. Things like that. Those are the things that I see work in the work that I do that actually motivate clients. Do you see the same thing, Jason?
Yes, a very similar thing. It's often part of our earliest work together to be asking people the simple question, um, the simple questions, what are your wellness goals? And then why are they important to you? And the answers end up being very simple. They start complex because people are complex, or maybe complicated is a better word. And at the end of the day, there's always something very simple and very important to a person. And it usually has to do with their relationships or their contribution through their work, something that impacts other people in some way. And and then think about this: to take care of ourselves requires making positive choices thousands of times, right? There every day, many opportunities. And if there isn't a very strong, compelling reason for making the positive choice, most of the times we won't. And if there is a strong, compelling reason for making a positive choice, most of the time we will.
True.
I like that. It seems like you're able to redirect people that are coming from a shallow place because maybe they don't even know how to articulate it. I have my pouch is pouching, and as a joke, I've been saying that. So it's really interesting that you use that choice of words because that's not really the problem. I'm injured. I want to make sure I can get back to work smoothly, and I miss my art, So it's really about making sure I'm healthy getting there and not emotionally overeating. But as a joke, I'm like, my pooch is pooching. So I feel like people maybe don't know, maybe the why is shallow at first. And then maybe through like their experience with you, they're able to like reconnect, like, oh, I just want to be more active again. And that's what it is.
I love you.
And it's almost like when a kid is curious and they keep asking why. In my work, I'll keep asking why. So someone might say something slightly deeper, like, I want to have more energy. I want to live life. I'm tired of being tired. I want to live with more energy. So that's slightly deeper. Um, but then you got to ask why again, because what are you missing by being tired, and what do you gain by having more energy? And they'll go a little deeper. They might say, I want to be able to do more with my work. It's deeper, still kind of broad, right? So what do you mean by you want to go deeper with your work? What do you mean you want to have more impact with your work? And if you keep asking the why, you'll usually get to something um, a little more powerful and a little more emotional for that
Mm.
person. And that's important because a lot of times people think to get ourselves to make lifestyle improvements, we need to sort of understand it intellectually. For example, um, I know this will lower my risk of type 2 diabetes, but intellectual knowledge doesn't really move people to take action, but emotional awareness usually does. Like, that's powerful. If you can get someone to uh, feel emotional, so to speak, about this topic, they'll tend to start taking action. Now, an important distinction, uh, for most people, discovering their why isn't a moment in time that then propels them to a lifetime of action in that direction. It's something you go back to over and over and over again. That's why people put photos of their kids on their refrigerator or on their office walls or something like that, right? Is you want to remind yourself of why this is important to you over and over and over again.
I love that. And here, my marketing brain, when they have the emotion connection, I heard you say the emotion connection to take action. And like, that is the key. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I try to do all the time with my business. You know what I mean? If I can drive that emotional connection to someone visually, to get them to have that connection of like, what does that feel to them deep down? That's the thing that I can get someone to take an action through a video. And so the same thing applies with, anything really.
It really does. I was having a conversation with a gentleman recently, and he didn't quite get what I did. So he was saying, like, essentially, he said to me, um, if someone, it's obvious that we should eat well, it's obvious we should exercise.
Mhm.
So I don't understand why someone would need a wellness coach. Shouldn't people just do it? Shouldn't people just suck it up and just do it? And he was coming from a good place.
Mm-hmm.
It was just his level of understanding of this. And that almost by accident, I was able to help him see this in a way that made sense to him. So I explained um, some of what we just shared, this idea that I'll have a conversation with a client about why this is, why something like this would be important to you, to them. And he had a light bulb go off and he said, "Oh, this gentleman has been in sales for decades." He said, I've had several sales roles where the way we got someone to take action, the way we got someone to buy our product or service was to ask them similar type questions about why
Mm-hmm.
this product or service might be important to them and how it might make their lives better. And his light bulb went off that he wasn't in sales. He's not going in there and sort of shaking people and be like, just buy
Right.
it.
Right. Well, the people just need this product. Like they should just be doing it, getting it anyway, you know?
There's so many things like that. That's a similar process to what I went through when we are sort of redirecting and working out that brain muscle too on the thoughts and how we perceive things. It's like the first thing we got to do is have the emotional intelligence to what we're doing. So the action that we're taking or the thought that we're having and why we need to change it or choose different. Like that why has got to be strong because, like you said, getting healthy, staying fit, whatever that looks like for you is not a one-time thing. It's thousands of choices, like hundreds in a day. And so you literally have to wire your brain to constantly look at action and look at thought and wonder and reflect on in the moment which one is going to serve that higher me. And that higher me, why do I want to become that higher me? Which is traveling the world or staying healthy so that you can live a long life, like whatever that is and whatever it relates to at that habit, right? Not everything is health and wellness related or mindset related, but finances, relationships, right? We have choices all day long and they're either serving where you want to go or they're not. They're keeping you stuck or they're bringing you back. So knowing your why in like all aspects of your life is so important. And it's not just your why. It's really like that emotional intelligence to see where you're going, see you while you're making the shifts in the moment to become that version of you.
That's a neat point. And I think all of us at some point in our lives, or I'll speak for myself, there's definitely been a portion of my life where I wasn't self-aware enough to notice how I was living and how it was impacting me and how it was impacting my well-being. And so it does take a waking up to that and then a willing to look at that. Um, we could call this being out of the matrix in a sense. We could call it becoming responsible. There's a neat way of thinking of the word responsible, put a hyphen in it and make it response-able. It means able to respond to life. So yeah, that kind of self-awareness of who am I? What do I want? What am I here for? Um, and then from a foundation with things like that in it, you're not you're not as susceptible to making choices based on all the things that come at you, whether that's through advertising or through your parents or through your friends or whatever else it is. You are more able to make positive choices in those hundreds and thousands of times when those opportunities arise. I'll add, because I think this is important for people listening. Yes, we're always making positive choices and life never stops, but you can form habits. So and Trinity, you're well aware of this, as you make the positive choices over and over, it becomes easier and easier. So I just like to encourage people in that way to realize that um, there's almost like a compounding interest
Yeah.
in this game, that it's not like imagine you become self-aware today and you become aware of why living well is important to you and you start living well. It's not as though 10 years from now it's like day one again. You get this is a skill that you get better at and it gets easier. So somewhere in between, it gets easier and it gets automatic to a degree, and you have to keep living.
Usually
Yeah.
choices directly related with health and wellness are deeply emotional, trauma based, and then never mind the adding of like just programming habits, which we all are, aware of. Um, I I think it's a certain level of to love life. That's usually when people will choose health.
Mm.
So when people aren't in a healthy mindset, or like in that sense, like seeking health information that's healthy all the time, is, I believe, at its core, it just, they don't have a healthy perception of wanting to live. And that was really based off my experience and the people I've been around. There, and people go in and out of that place. I'm not saying they've always felt that way or whatever, but I think that specific to health and wellness, from my point of view in my career, the people that are actively seeking to show up to aerial classes or to have look at diet, just even regularly looking up the information, never mind hiring a coach, that takes a, a will to want to live and enjoy life.
It does. So let's talk
Mhm.
about like what goals are related to wanting to live a long life, right? Like what I've heard is my personal one is traveling. I want to be able to travel the world and I can't do that seeing specialists and getting prescriptions. But then you also have like, I want to live a long life for my grandkids, my great grandkids. I want to be involved and not just sitting in a chair all the time watching TV. So what are some of those things that you see, Jason, with people who like those things that make them want to live a long life?
I will definitely answer that. If I might, I'd love to touch on Danielle's point because I think it's super deep and super intense, and we don't have to stay there longer than is comfortable. But this idea that taking care of oneself is essentially choosing life, and not taking care of oneself is essentially choosing death. I know that's a big, scary word for many of us. Um,
That's what it is.
appears
I believe it's right at the core of it.
seems to be true. Yes, and this can sound like judgmental, and I know Danielle doesn't mean it that way, and I don't mean it that way. And I'll speak in the first person. There have been times in my life where the way I was living was self-destructive, and it was because of difficult experiences I had, and uh, I had internalized this idea that at least as me, life wasn't worth living, and not and here's what's a hard part of this conversation. People hear that, and it's the big scary word suicide, and we mostly talk about suicide in our culture in the, I guess, acute suicide would be a good way of saying it, but killing oneself in one moment. But I would challenge all of us and anyone listening that at any moment in time, uh, we are we can be doing something that is, we could call it slow suicide, something that is killing us slowly. Another way to think about those things are kind of like morphine. They both,
Definitely an addict mindset. So,
yes.
like, an addict essentially doesn't want to be alive. And as a prior addict, I can say that with confidence because that's really what we all can like consciously agree on. Well,
Hmm.
food is a drug, and food is an addiction, and lifestyle is an addiction. And so it's like the judgment's on the addict, but the truth is, so is the diet. So, like, it's literally, it's just not as judged, and
It's
it's
not as,
social, and it's like normalized in culture. And um so I think it's like literally brought up like morphine. It literally is the same, and I think that's where the information comes from. For me, I started to realize like, oh, when people are coming to aerial classes or looking up information, they're on a thrive to live, and it's such a different place. And I think the information's the same, it's just not looked at like as like tarnish. But yeah, I believe people that eat really poorly, knowing differently, or have no form of exercise whatsoever, are choosing to take, like, it's like being an addict. They're choosing this same path to switch.
Suicide on the installment plan.
Yeah.
God. You know what's crazy though is it just takes that one little thing to click that's like, I have a reason to live. And that's what we can all
Yeah,
do is
it's
like
usually art or something beautiful or some like random moment or person. You never know.
where something happens, like a big traumatic event happens that steers you the other way, and that's your reason to live, right? Like I had one of those moments. I lost my mom when she was 45 years old. I
Yeah.
looked at that like, I don't want to die when I'm 45 years old. Like, that is not even life. Imagine the life, right? So, big things like that, that society would normalize completely destructing from. And I'm not saying I didn't destruct for a couple of years before I actually healed from it and used it for this reason. You can actually use to like thrive from. And
Mhm.
it we all have to go through our healing process in order to get to a place to thrive from things like that. But the important part is you see it as a process. Someone like that passing away, that's a big traumatic event, you've got to heal, then you can grow from it. But a lot of people are like, they get stuck in the destructive mode of it. And we
Or
just
like people want to live long enough for their kids, which is like really something that's centered for me too, right? But even then, there's always like a slow burn, or there's always something that you're not quite living for yourself. So there's something underlining there, and there's always has. And then I feel like God never wants to give up on his children, so he'll put like a scenario to shake you up and want you to value self and not just want to thrive so you live long enough for your kid. That's never going to be enough of a reason why. um I use that as an example because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, or wanting to live long enough to finish a mission that they have, or a goal, or a sibling, or whatever people's whys are. But it's usually in the moments when we figure out we want to live for ourselves, the little pieces for ourselves.
this is a cool conversation because I was just having this. It was either earlier this week or end of last week with a client who was like, I could die tomorrow and say that I've actually like really lived a full and fulfilling life. But I am also so excited to live the rest of my life. And I'm like, isn't that the most beautiful like harmony we can create is being content and full and abundant with the life that we're living, but also be like, man, I am so excited for the future. That's
Mhm.
happiness. Like that's true fulfillment. And I think that when you can see the future like we're talking about and you can see the present like we're talking about, that's where you can really like step into that fulfilling life.
Mhm.
Take it back to I'm glad we took that detour because I think that's important because we're talking about what compels a person to move toward their best life, their optimal
Mhm.
well-being for them, and things like that. And it's important to make this distinction we just made that let's all be aware that we have a tendency to go, we have a potential to go in the other direction. But then I think it's just a cool thing about human nature. No matter how far you get away, you get reminders, whether it's an intense rock bottom or it's, I think Danielle referred to like seeing a piece of art, or maybe it's even just an internal experience. On an ongoing basis, it's human nature to live. And I mean that with multiple meanings. At least one is to literally live, not die, but also to live fully, right? And that's a neat thing about human nature. And that's what, when I think one thing I offer my clients is in our own minds, we only go certain places. And when we have conversations, and when you have a conversation with a trained coach whose skill set is around drawing things out of their clients, uh, a person gets an opportunity to discover what they have to live for. And most people are somewhat surprised that that is so motivating because they're kind of like, all right, I'm going to go to the wellness coach and he's going to tell me to just do it. And they discover parts of themselves they didn't think they were going to discover. So let me be more specific. Um, it often involves other people. It often involves. I started coaching a couple last week, and the gentleman had a very small stroke 4 or 5 months ago, And he was like, I got more living to do, not just for me, but I'm coaching them together. He literally pointed to his wife. Um, so that's big. A lot of people talk about um, uh, not necessarily a specific thing they want to experience, but that they want to experience everything without a wet blanket on them of some kind. The wet blanket being fatigue or brain fog, mental fog, aches and pains, uh, things like that. It just like everything is sort of muted when their wellness is going in the wrong direction. So that's a good place to start, I think.
Mm.
I often use that mindset when I am working out. Is I love to hike. And so in order to actually enjoy hiking, I must be fit when I am not hiking. Like I can look back 3 or 4 years ago before I got healthier. Hiking was hard. Like it was hard stuff. Now I do it and it's enjoyable and it's not as hard. And I enjoy the hard now too, because I picture my muscles actually building, right? So I love that. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful. I love that reason of the husband with the wife. Like that's what I mean is like a stroke is a traumatic event. Like that is scary as hell.
Yeah.
Now look at them using it together to thrive forward.
It was
Mhm.
extra cool. A small proportion of my clients are I call them duos because they're not always a married couple or a couple. Um, when they are and when they're doing it together, it's crazy powerful. I mean, she was very open about her wanting him to be around for a long time, and she had her own reasons for wanting to improve her own well-being, and they both had reasons that if they did it together, they were the kind of couple. It was very endearing who do most things together, and they've been married. I think they told me about 30 years, and this is sort of the next thing they're going to do together, the next experience they're going to have together, and yeah, as such, you can imagine they're very motivated.
I love that.
I
That's
think
beautiful.
I think that a traumatic event gives someone the reason why they would spend money to get additional third party help. What is so impressive about you is like, I feel so grateful for our podcast because I'm always in a position to learn. Because I have people asking me questions I don't ask myself or saying things that derive that information. Well, if they are not outsourcing you to dig for a why or give a shit to dig for a why, because how many of us are in relationships or whatever where we don't have the time or the emotional depth or whatever to do that for other people, right? Like that's truly the beautiful thing is that you're taking the time to ask those questions to really help someone emotionally navigate themselves. And a lot of people don't just have that. Like, I mean, my kids drop some dimes sometimes, but they're not, they're not equipped to help me self-guide. And so I love that you're that person to ask the questions that they don't have people asking them. And
Yeah.
like not everybody gets that.
Look at
We're not as good at understanding ourselves by ourselves as we think we
No,
are.
Yeah.
no.
No, and what I love about what actually every single one of us here does, and I'll explain this in a second, is gives people the space to make a non-negotiable time to do it because we all have time. I will tell you, I time audit my clients all of the time, and I show them that we all have an abundance of time. But what we got to do is start with the accountability to make it a non-negotiable. When I work with clients, I start with once a week, then we go to every other week, then we go to once a month because they're doing it on their own now because we made that non-negotiable time. So self-care, self-love, reflection, it's not a second thought, third thought, fourth thought anymore. They're prioritizing. I'm not saying we're all perfect. That's why we still have the coaching session once a month or twice a month because then we just re-navigate to prioritizing that when we fall off. Now, every single one of you do that. Jason, you do that exact thing I just talked about. I do it with mindset. You do it with health and wellness. Danielle, you give people the space and make a non-negotiable time for them to exercise and move, create. I've worked with you. You do so much more than the actual movement. You like spark creativity in me and so many other things. The community that you create. Graham, I work with you for my business. You make me make the time in my business and hold me accountable professionally for marketing. All the stuff I do, like I'm like, all right, I'm meeting with Graham today. I got to make sure I get this done, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we
Likewise.
all do that. And that's the power of hiring a professional who is trained in whatever way they're trained for what they do, because we make it a non-negotiable. We keep you on track. It's literally like having a GPS for having the best life you can possibly have, right?
Yeah, 100%. I love that.
I sometimes, when I'm talking about my profession with fellow wellness coaches, I'm not diminishing the profession by saying this, but I'm just making it clear, a little more clear what we do and sort of softening it in some way. And I say that, yes, this is a professional skill and people work hard to acquire the ability to do it. Um, But what we're essentially doing is something that in past generations was provided, that wasn't something you bought. It was something provided by the wise elders or the or your the medicine man or medicine woman, meaning like people help people. That's human nature. People in both like in a recycling symbol sort of way, like at any given moment in life, personally or professionally, I might be lending my skills to someone. And at the next moment in life, personally or professional, I might be borrowing skills from someone. And I think it's human nature to do this. We just live in a time when we don't live in bands or tribes or villages anymore. So these kinds of resources aren't all around us, and we're not sort of socially bartering them. Instead, we kind of live in silos, and when we need help with something, we go buy that service. It's just the time we live in. But I think it's neat to think about like the working with a wellness coach or working with a marketing professional or any of us or anyone else providing a person-to-person service as this very cool, very heartening human exchange of you don't have to figure out life by yourself. You don't have to live an awesome life by yourself, that we can help each other with that.
That
Yeah,
is
like instead of being a part of a tribe, we become self-employed. And we're like, here's our skill. It's a spider web too, because like Trinity had said that all of a sudden, because you have a regulated time or the pattern, or you looked out for the additional human to help you, you start doing it on your own. And then that's why I align Pilates instructors or weightlifting classes that are around town, because maybe it's just a scheduling thing. Like, and it really does spider web to the other tribe members. Like as they tend to out once, it spider webs on its own.
Or just even the spider web of how you're connected with everybody else. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like if I'm getting help with Jason for wellness coach, that doesn't just affect me, that affects all the people that I come in contact with, the way that I coach Trinity with her thing, and then the way that she helps other people, and it just like all interconnects.
A ripple. It's a ripple.
Yes.
Jade from Ripple Retreat on here, and this is what we talk about is that exact thing. I was just coaching a client yesterday, Graham, and teaching them what you teach me. I'm like, I this from a really smart guy. You have to listen to me. So I love this, but this is what we do in the podcast too. This is really like why we created it, is because we do live alone, and especially as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, this journey can feel so alone. And we have
The podcast makes me ask questions for myself, makes me like express and share. And then that's like what Jason really, what sticks out to me is your ability to ask questions and ask questions that people aren't asking themselves, or to inspire that they're certainly asking themselves questions or asking other people around them deeper questions. And this podcast has kept me aligned in that way. I'm always learning, I'm always diving a little bit deeper in myself. I think it gives me such a fulfillment that I would just not have on my own, because I am in like a singular business like even when we work with other people, we come home, we're still working. We know we all are. And
Mm-hmm.
alone, and the ideas come alone, and then the drive to action is usually alone, and then you find people.
Yeah.
So,
No.
Yes, I love that.
Love
So
this.
cool. Great conversation. Appreciate you coming on again, Jason, as a valued guest to the Unfiltered Path podcast. I hope our listeners have gained that connection. You know what I mean? Like, take what we've been talking about and go make your spider web or your ripple or however you want to look at it. So, hope there's some inspiration, some value. And again, if you ever, guys, listening have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or shoot us a message. We're all about addressing any of those types of questions. And if you want to get in contact with me, my name is Graham. Valued Productions is my business. You can find me on my website at valuedproductions, or social media at Valued Productions. Happy to connect with anybody. And I'm joined with my co-host today.
Hey everyone, Trinity Baker, mindset coach and motivational speaker. If you're looking for more content related to topics like this, personal development, professional development, follow me at the Trinity Baker on your favorite social media platform and on my website, thetrinitybaker.com. Joined here with my co-host.
hi everyone, what a wonderful reminder. Ask better questions. Like, always ask yourself questions, ask people you love more questions. I think that's what I'm going to take from today, is like to be a little more like Jason. I love this. Thank you so much for coming back. My name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I'm an aerialist. I like to talk about food, being a mother, exercise, mostly aerialism, and yeah, everything, just life. And we are here with our guest today.
I'm Jason Gootman. Thank you, Trinity, Graham, and Danielle, for having me. It was a true pleasure to have a conversation. It doesn't feel like work to talk about this stuff. And if people want to get in touch with me, the name of my business is Puvema, Puvema, and my website address is simply puvema.com.
Jason,
So,
thank you so much.
thank you for joining us. And remember, join us next week on the Unfiltered Path podcast. Go follow, hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube to get notified when we get a new episode. Subscribe where all your podcasts are heard. And we'll see you next week on the Unfiltered Path podcast.